Hi, I'm Beck. I'm going to talk about humanities and social sciences in relation to visual arts. John Dewey talks about art as experience and how every experience extends to us on a personal level and how it penetrates each of our lives differently. It is through this that we can really engage students with the arts and utilise meaningful opportunities for students to create and explore their own imagination. The arts have the capacity to engage, inspire, and enrich all students, exciting the imagination and encouraging students to reach their creative and expressive potential. Similarly, Cornett highlights the fact that it is vital that educators incorporate creative arts within the current curriculum, but additionally, doing so will enable students to positively develop their thinking skills, their confidence, and highlight their diversity. Therefore, it is clear that the creative arts program within schools should be deemed as important as other areas for study. Caldwell and Vaughan and UNESCO highlight this importance throughout the examination of the Conventions of the Right of the Child, which states clearly that any absence of arts education within schools is a breach of these rights for children. Eisner 2008 highlights that educators can refer to the arts when teaching and implement changes to the overall educational experience for their students. In doing so, open-ended tasks permit the exercise of imagination, and the exercise of imagination is one of the most important human aptitudes. He states that it is imagination, not necessity, that is the mother of invention. Through open-ended tasks, students can explore new possibilities and interpret the world around them through meaningful modes. Thinking about visual arts specifically, the exploration and interpretation of art can be used to stimulate all areas of the curriculum. The learning area I'm going to focus on specifically is humanities and social sciences in relation to visual arts. Within the area of humanities and social sciences, I'm going to focus specifically on history for the purposes of this assignment, which is outlined by Akara. When viewing our video installation, you would have noticed that we visited Hosier Lane, where many artists have expressed themselves through the exploration of graffiti art. A few questions popped into my head when walking through the lane. Who created these? What was their inspiration? When did they create them? And perhaps why? These are all questions that can be explored. Humanities and social sciences is all about human society and the relationships within. When reflecting on our trip to Hosier Lane, all the artwork displayed told a different story. Over time, many people have probably added to the graffiti there, adding their own flair and touch to what could be constituted as collective artwork. Some probably wanted to tell a story, some may have wanted to express an issue or speak out about something they are passionate about. Some were controversial, and others were clearly quite personal. Overall, they wanted to express themselves and therefore have created art that we can experience on a personal level and interpret for ourselves. This all clearly relates to the learning area of humanities and social sciences, in that we are wondering about our relationships within our society and what makes each person different. Whether it be their history, where they come from, what they do for a living, or their interests, we can begin to understand and have an appreciation of the past and what forces shape our society. The humanities and social sciences domain states exactly this, that students should have an interest in and knowledge and understanding of our Australian history and the forces that have shaped and are still shaping our society today. Similarly, the curriculum also states that students understand contrasting perspectives and cause and effect relationships when learning about historical concepts. Within this, they also must be capable of analysing sources and explaining their own personal view. The arts curriculum clearly states that students should develop an understanding of visual arts as a field of knowledge informed by particular histories, theories, and cultures. Students will learn to critically analyse, evaluate, and understand personal and collective contexts for art making and responding, and will be able to consider these from various perspectives. These two curriculum areas clearly link. As I previously mentioned, how using Hosier Lane as a resource will specifically allow students to think deeply about our society and the people that make it. You could use the artwork in Hosier Lane in many ways. Some ideas may include looking at famous graffiti artists such as Banksy and reflect on their reasonings and methods behind his art. And as you can see, I've printed 2 examples of his artwork, and clearly each have a specific message behind, and these are the types of images that I'd probably use in the classroom. You can allow students to create their own graffiti artwork depicting a social issue that interests them. You could research the history of graffiti art, including places such as Pompeii or Berlin, and allow students to conduct their own investigation reflecting on the historical significance of graffiti, and perhaps how it is also perceived today. Students could talk about what values are depicted in the graffiti and compare and contrast varying artists. Is graffiti self-expression or vandalism? Students could conduct a debate, with each side researching the opposing view and argue their own opinion. Within all these ideas, the use of visual arts is important. It is vital to allow students to view and translate many contrasting forms of graffiti so they can establish clear comparisons and therefore gain as much knowledge as possible in reference to the history behind the artwork and the significance of it. Additionally, the footage we took in Hosier Lane could be used in other learning areas. It is obvious that this resource not only connects with humanities and social sciences and visual arts, but it incorporates literacy quite clearly, as do many of the learning activities I have mentioned. Reading, viewing, and writing about the history of graffiti and its significance all relate to literacy pretty clearly. Also, within the artwork in Hosier Lane, the connection with varying cultures and therefore languages was evident, establishing a clear connection between the graffiti and language studies, another area of the curriculum that establishes relevance within this resource. The language depicted is an indication of the culture and of the artist, giving us some insight into the characteristics and reasonings behind the artwork and the artist. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learnt some new things.